Hello and welcome to this presentation where we are going to be stepping into a time machine to explore the future and the trends and technologies that will shape our lives. My name is Edward Pollock and I am the Startup Coordinator at Robert Gordon University, and over the next 20-30 minutes or so I'm hopefully going to give you some insight into the different activities that are going to be happening in the future, but we're going to do it by imagining what my life might look like in 2040. So we're going to go through a scenario of what it could be, and potentially you'll get some inspiration and ideas that could consider what your life might be like in 2040. So come with me, let's step into our time machine, back to the future style, and journey to 2040. So the first thing we notice when we wake up in 2040 is that I'm living in a vertical house. So this is as more and more people are starting to move to urban centres and housing needs to be more sustainable. We're running out of land on the ground to be able to live in. So by 2040 perhaps we're starting to see more sky rises, but actually with a lot more green space built into them. Vertical gardens are becoming a lot more the norm. Now, as I wake up in my morning, my job in the day is going to be a drone controller. Quite exciting, a job that exists now, but perhaps not to the same level as it will in 2040. So my deliveries, my mail, some policing, even some luxury travel by 2040 are all done through drone technology. Now, my job as a drone controller is to make sure they don't all crash in the sky, to make sure there is space for the different drones to get past each other, to make sure there isn't any issues due to the technology, and to make sure people are safe when they're out there. But by 2040, that's not my only job. That's one of my jobs, but I actually have a secondary job where I get to express my creativity more, and I am a freelance augmented reality designer. Now, this is technology where today, back in 2020, back in the old days, you used to walk past a billboard and it was just a static image stuck to a poster. Well, not in 2040. Now, everything gets to come to life. The technology we have is much more immersive and much more engaging. So I get to design those. I work with companies to design these interactive poster presentations or interactive shop displays or units or interactive ways of engaging the walking public with these designs. So I have this variety of skills because I don't just want one career in 2040, I want multiple, and that's part of my design. And by this stage, I work for myself. The world has more entrepreneurs in 2040. The way we work back in the old days of 2020 was very much corporate led. But if you think way back, everybody used to be an entrepreneur. Farmers, people who gathered crops, people who produced clay pots and all sorts of different items worked for themselves. They controlled their own destiny. And actually, as we move to the future, we're starting to see more and more of that. Most people have a main job, but also their own entrepreneurial job as well. Now, here's an example of one of my designs. Actually, I was paid by Burger King to compete against McDonald's and design a augmented reality design to burn. Anytime you see a McDonald's advert, it gets burned, and a Burger King one pops up as well. So fast food's still going, but we're coming up with these creative ways of doing things. And you'll probably notice that actually the font or the language used in the adverts is Spanish. And I've had to become a little bit multilingual because by 2040, English isn't just one of the main languages. Spanish and Chinese Mandarin have become such popular languages, and the populations have grown so much that actually they are really critical languages by this point in the future. Now, moving on, equally, as I'm designing these adverts, it's not just the creative skills I've got to use. I have a lot more information available to me by 2040. I design personalised augmented reality adverts. So instead of just walking past something that might be relevant to you, I'm now able to access information based on your marketing spend, your social media. It's all connected with your devices. I'm able to tell exactly what you're interested in, and the adverts are tailored to you. So instead of you walking past a sign that says buy this new phone, by 2040 it says, hello Edward, this is what you want to buy, here's a discount available for you, turn left in a few steps time. It's all interactive and it all is directed specifically at you. Bit more invasive by then, but I get to be a lot more creative and design a lot more content. Now, equally, a challenge that we had, God, do you remember back in 2020, we had these big social media companies that controlled all of our data. Well, things changed. Actually, we weren't allowed to own so much data anymore. And if companies were going to have information about your preferences or interests or products that you buy or, the things you click on, they now have to start paying a data tax. This is the way that some of these companies were making money, and actually we weren't very clear on what was happening with all of that information. So now if you want to have personalized adverts, if you want to target people directly, you can, but it costs a lot more. So I have to be aware of that when I'm doing my creative work. Now let's go back to my house. I've woken up, that's my jobs, my creative jobs for the economy, and my house is waking up too. So as I wake up, my house wakes up because my artificial intelligence is able to detect what I'm thinking, detect what I'm doing, and turn the lights on, turn the heating on, and begin to start cooking breakfast all while I'm getting up in the morning. Pretty handy. I remember back in the old days, I had these Google and Alexas that you had to shout at to tell it what to do, and it was quite handy. But nowadays, I don't even need to yell. It already knows exactly what I need, almost before I need it, but not quite. And my breakfast, pretty handy. I want a quick meal today, so I am lucky I've got a new device in my kitchen that 3D prints my breakfast. It's not quite as elaborate as I would have liked. It can do basics like pancakes or pizzas or different sort of flat things like that. It doesn't quite do a full-on fancy meal at that point, but still delicious, quick, easy, good to go, all 3D printed. And in my building, my vertical skyscraper building, my artificial intelligence reminds me that I have to get my exercise. Even though it's 2040, you still need to get your exercise in. And there was this thing way back, I don't remember what it was called. It was in the 2020s. I think it was it coronavirus? There was a big pandemic on the go, that's right. And all of a sudden, you can't start going into workouts with lots of different people. The world changed, and now there's a lot more individualistic approach to things. So instead of going to a big communal gym, actually our building has a gym built in that's able to kind of personalize our gym routine for us. We can book it out in advance, and it kind of tracks all of our body movements to tell us exactly what workouts we need to do, what bits of our body need more exercise than others, based on what we've been eating and doing. So quite smart, quite funky, but also still have the exercise, so that's a bit of a pain. Now I'm heading back. I've had my workout for the day. It's still quite early, but at least I've had a bit of food and I've had a bit of a workout. And my meals arrived. Quite handy. And as you'll remember, that big coronavirus thing and various other pandemics, unfortunately, that have happened since in the 30s and 40s, means that all of my mail and items coming into my home need to be sanitized and prepared. So the mail arrives by drone into the building, it is put into these contained pobs, and they are sanitized and delivered up to my apartment so that when I'm arrived and back from my workout in the building, all my mail is there ready to go. Now, my assistant in the house knows that I'm ready, so I don't have a car anymore. I do occasionally walk and I do occasionally cycle with the new devices, but actually the quickest and easiest way is to take electronic pods to get from one place to the other. So my assistant orders me a pod, it arrives at my apartment ready to go, and I don't need to prove who I am. I don't need to look for the license plate number anymore because it has facial recognition. So because I've got an account set up, it knows exactly who I am, the door's open once it senses who my face is, and it knows what my account is. So once I'm done and I arrive there, it automatically pays the bill using cryptocurrency. I don't need to have any cards or cash. It automatically knows who I am, where I'm going, and pays it all for me. So it's so convenient, and I don't need to own a car. I don't need to fill it with petrol. I don't need to deal with that. I mean, there are people who still have luxury vintage cars, but the pod network is so fast that I just find it so much more convenient. Now, remember that coronavirus thing happened? Things changed quite a lot in the time that happened since. We're now very avoiding the touch sensors. So if anything could be facial ID or anything could be automatically sensed, that's the same. So I tend not to need to touch anything. My gate opens for me, my pod opens for me. It's all very simple. But as I'm in my pod on my way to work as a drone controller, there is a delay. Unfortunately, there is some construction work going on, and a robot is building a new bridge. Now, no longer do you need to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks for these things to be constructed, for builders to get involved and demolish things and, have to wait for all the delays. Actually, we have 3D printing construction bots which are able to do the work for us. Very simple, was able to take a detour. The pod was able to take a detour. We avoided it altogether. And in a couple of days, that new bridge will be built and ready to go. There are humans that need to come in and test it and supervise the robots, but it's much quicker. So lots of new exciting infrastructure. So as I get into the office, I have a very interesting office. Our drone control company is actually not necessarily owned by anyone. So we do have a contract to work for the government and work for different companies, but our company doesn't have a boss. We are a sort of cooperative company. We all work for each other and we all communicate with each other, decide who gets promotions, what hours we work, what tasks need to be done, and we collaborate with each other to decide that. So I decide on my working pattern. I think, do you know what, I've done quite a lot this week. I've not got as much to do, so I'm going to do 10 till 3 today and do some designing later on. But I also think I'm going to meet a friend today, so I think I'll finish a little bit early. And we decide that as a team and we're ready to go. So I'm controlling the drone traffic. I'm making sure that, we're working with companies so there's not any incidents. If there's any technical issues, we send out teams to support that. And we help for battery failure and storm damage. And unfortunately, storm damage happens quite a lot because unfortunately, we haven't quite got control of climate change. We've done some good work, but unfortunately, the society back in 2020 in the 2010s didn't take it seriously enough. The politicians didn't work fast enough. And now there is major environmental disasters every single year that we're constantly having to deal with. And we actually have to now pay a disaster relief tax on top of our normal taxes because there's so many environmental disasters that it costs a heck of a lot of money. So each year we have to contribute to that, and I have to be aware of the floods, the wildfires, and the thousands of people who are affected by them because of climate change. But throughout the day, similar on the same note, we also are all a bit more accountable about what our government decides. So we are signed up to a government phone network in 2040 and we're required to all vote on key issues. So there was a lot of protest. Back in the 2030s, there was a lot of political divide. Almost nothing got passed politically because one party said yes and one party said no, and it was impossible to get anything done. So this new system was introduced where on big controversial decisions, we the public get a chance to make that vote and make it happen. So we don't necessarily have as many local representatives anymore. We make those decisions as a society, but we still do elect candidates into key roles such as education, security, data security, planetary space networks, different kind of roles in the government at that time. So at this point, when things were getting more divided, we took more control and we wanted to try and avoid more civil war. So this new voting system makes it a little bit easier. Today, I'm at work in 2040 and we are voting on increasing the jet tax. Luckily, there is some new technologies around electric engines on air travel, which makes flying a little bit more environmentally friendly, considerably more than jet planes anyway. And actually, because the temperature is now higher, we need to do more to try and bring that temperature down. So in today's session, we are going to be voting on increasing that tax so that we hopefully will reduce the amount of environmental damage from these jet planes. So I'm like, yes, let's decrease the tax. Let's increase the taxes and get rid of these jet planes. So I'm in the middle of my day. I think, do you know what? I need to head out for lunch. So I head to the local supermarket, which is actually completely contactless once again. I head in, I grab the items that I want, but I don't need to, scan the items. I don't need to pick up baskets. I put them in my bag. I walk out and the sensors automatically detect what I've taken and bill my account. Super easy. And there's a couple of cleaners on stand if you need any help, but really it's basically a walk-in vending machine. It's the quickest and easiest way to get my lunch. And actually, if you are shopping these days in 2040, it is a very different experience. If you want convenience, online stores are still much more engaging, but there's been a resurgence in the actual shopping centre because they are now more like theme parks than they ever are shops. You go there for the experience, the entertainment, the personalised display, the personalised shopping, the attractions, all of the exciting stuff. Going to the shops is a day out to be able to actually experience something, immerse yourself in something, try on clothes, escape from the day-to-day life, not just wander about and buy things. It's a very different experience than we're used to in the past. So as I head back to work, I head into my problemology class. So actually we are all required to learn a lot more. Things are changing so quickly, there's so much new technology, and in order to keep up to date with our jobs, education has changed. No longer do you need to do big, long degrees. You have to do regular, constant, up-to-date learning. And it's much more skills focused than knowledge focused. So today my class is problemology. So I'm understanding how to solve problems, how to be creative, how to interact with emotional intelligence. And I'm in a class with hundreds of students all around the world. It's all virtual, it's all interactive, and I get the chance to learn different problems from all over the world. Now, actually today happens to be my great-grandmother's birthday, so I am going to bring out the old version of a virtual reality headset. We've got some fancier ones these days, but she's still back in the 2020 version where she gets to see these 3D images that she still really likes. So it's her 125th birthday. Whew, she's done well. And I'm going to be sending her a memory from a family holiday that she can experience over again. She can put her headset on and experience that joy. And I also promise, I say, don't worry, I'm going to be taking you to an experience pod for your birthday in the next weekend that I can. These are very different, so these are very immersive cinema experiences. No longer do you just have to line up with lots of different people to watch a film. We decided to rewatch the old Marvel movies, the one from the 2010s, because the new ones just aren't quite the same. We still prefer the old ones. So we go into these 360 pods, or we will do, and you're surrounded by sound, movement, smell. You're almost in the film itself. You get to experience it in the same person as you are experiencing it as the characters in the film. The retro ones don't have quite the same effects as the new ones. The new ones are much more immersive, but you still get that experience of being in something that's 3D. So I finished my work for the day, I've controlled my drones, it's all gone well, and after work I decided to meet my friends at a local bar. Much less staff in these, all our drinks are ordered through our virtual assistant, it practically knows what we want already, and it's all paid automatically. So the drinks are prepared and delivered by robot assistants to us as we're chatting at our table. We grab a bite to eat, again all ordered digitally, our robot delivers it to us. There's a lot less staff required because we have this technology, but equally there's a younger population. There are less people to be able to work in restaurants and act as waiters now because the population is growing older. The younger people are taking more creative careers, so there's less time for us to be able to interact with that. And as me and my friend are chatting, we're having our food, we're having our drinks, and we're decided to plan our next wellness holiday. You have social holidays, you have family holidays, but we also now are expected to take wellness holidays to try and protect our mental health, to escape. And we realised that there is a brand new wellness resort. Now, this resort is just open. We've not been to it before, but it's pretty exciting because the whole resort is on the sea and it travels to the destination. So no longer do you need to spend lots of time and money on flights. You have to fly there, but you get to experience lots of different countries all at once while the whole resort itself moves. Bit like a cruise ship, but you get the whole building, the whole experience of it gets to travel. We don't know how it's going to go, but it's all spas and retreats and wellness and help and counselling and support that you're supposed to come out of it transformed into a new person. So we say, well, why don't we chat to our friends and see if we can get something like that booked very soon. And we're finished, we've had a good time, we've been chatting, and now we're starting to head home. But my friend's feeling a little bit ill today, so we stopped by a medical station. You can find these all throughout shopping centres or in the streets. They're kind of like phone booths, and you can go in there and you get speaking to an artificial intelligence doctor. You tell it what your problem is, and it sort of analyses you. It can do some scans on the spot, and the sensors recognise there's something a little bit not right, so they decide to connect through to a genuine human doctor. At least at this point in the UK, healthcare is still free, so you can do all of that quite easily. And the human doctor looks at the scans and realises that my friend actually has quite a serious lump, and it's a really fast acting disease. He may only have days to live if this acts fast, because unfortunately lots of different health concerns have happened, and now by 2040 diseases can act really fast and medicine has to work even faster. But luckily the doctor gives a prescription, and by 2040 we have a very early prototype of some nanotechnology. These are tiny little robots, or tiny little biological genetically made constructs that you can take these pills, they go into your body and they can detect where the disease cells are and rewrite them and kill them immediately, almost overnight. This is a free service. It's not available to, these pills aren't available to everyone all the time. It depends. You have to get a doctor's diagnosis, but you just need to pop along to the mobile pharmacy, basically a vending machine, and put your prescription in, and it automatically dispenses these nanotechnology. So my friend, feeling much better doing something like that. Still early technology, but quite exciting. So as I'm heading home, I am decided to download the day's news. I have been avoiding it. There is a lot of disasters on the go. It can be quite depressing, but I decided I'll take a snapshot at the end. So my personal assistant personalizes the news so that it knows what I'm most interested in. So a couple of headlines from 2040 is civil wars have continued to develop in African nations as they continue to fight for access to water. With us moving to a non-fossil fuel-based economy, actually with the rising temperatures, access to clean water has become the biggest political problem, particularly in nations, not just in Africa, but in nations without access to natural water, and deserts are drying up and it's a big environmental challenge, and now countries are fighting for access to natural streams, so it's a bit stressful. Another story, the Mars base has grown its first food, which is very exciting. So we don't live on Mars, but there is some astronauts out there doing scientific research and they've been able to grow their first bit of food. And Japan has had to temporarily shut down all internet after an illegal artificial intelligence was detected with the ability to infiltrate the transport systems. The cyber police have been able to isolate it. This one is scary of all things because people are developing their own artificial intelligence which are able to start thinking for themselves. They are much less controlled, and while the cyber police do exist to try and stop these things, they have to shut down the whole internet for the whole country to stop it getting out, because these things are so powerful. If they'd even delayed a second, that could have infiltrated transport systems, it could have destroyed the pod network, it could have made people crash. So constantly we are fighting with these dark infiltrators, these cyber terrorists that are attacking our lives. But luckily we have good police and services to help us out. So I'm heading home and I head back to my vertical flat, and actually luckily everything is powered by wind, water and solar. So we do have a very renewable lifestyle in the personal world. The corporate world wasn't so fast to catch up. The fossil fuel industry fought, but luckily, domestically, we still do have that. And actually, I don't often have to pay for electricity. We've now made so much, we've covered the cost of the infrastructure for solar panels and wind that some days electricity is completely free, and even on other days, because we're in a building that has quite high access to wind and solar, we make more electricity than we need, and we can sell that back to other houses that don't have access. And sometimes I come home and I've made money from my share of the property. Today, not so much. It offsets the cost of recycling, that we've got that extra money, so that's quite handy. And at the end of my day, a pretty busy day, I have to say, in 2040, I head to my bed and I decide to recharge. So my virtual assistant, once again, is reflecting on my body rhythms. It's looking at what I've had for the day, and it has a conversation with me about my mental health. How am I feeling? What stresses I've had? And it starts to recognise that that maybe I've had a bit of a stressful day and I should call through to my family, wish my great-grandma a happy birthday on the phone, and that'll brighten my mood before I go to bed. And as I'm ready to go to bed, it sets the lighting right, it sets the temperature right, it allows me to fall asleep at just the right time with the right atmosphere, and it will wake me up at the time I need to wake up. I don't need to set an alarm. It will know when I've naturally had enough sleep to be able to wake me up and get ready for my next day in my life in 2040. That's me back to 2020. So from that exploration, hopefully you've had some exciting insights into what a potential world in 2040 might be. These are just my predictions. I'm just one person. They're based on trends in technology. Some of the technology, majority of it, it already exists today in 2020. So who knows how advanced it could be by 2040. If you think back to even just 2010, which was 10 years ago, but even before that, 20 years back, 2000, we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have the artificial intelligence, we didn't have Google Homes, we didn't have Alexas, we didn't have Amazon, all these kind of technologies where you can get Amazon Prime to your door. The world has changed very rapidly in 20 years. So who knows, the next 20 could go even faster. So how will you be prepared for that future? Which technology, which trend could impact you? How will any of these trends impact your industry or your career choices or what you're most interested in? Hopefully we have triggered some imaginative approaches, and maybe if you come up with an innovation, you never know, you could be creating that future in 2040. So thank you so much for joining us today. As I say, I really hope we've inspired you to think a little bit differently and be excited, but also warned. The future might not always be so bright, but fingers crossed some of the technology can help us make that world a better place. We are the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Group at Robert Gordon University, and our job is to spark student, staff and alumni imagination, to provide opportunities for people to come up with these innovative ideas and to support entrepreneurs. If people come to the university and want to set up businesses, we run events, competitions, free online courses, training programs to make successful businesses to diversify our Scottish economy. So if you're interested in learning more about what we do at RGU and how we're helping our students change our tomorrow, then please do get in touch, visit our website, and we'll be happy to work alongside you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've been Edward Pollock, and you can follow RGU Innovation on Instagram or get in touch on any social medias if you'd like to know more. Thank you.